Correct. I will call this work session to order, June 10th, 2025. This is budget discussion. You will call for this. All right. Mallard? Yes, here. Nelson? Yes, here. Martin? Here. Charlie? Here. Armstrong? Present. Owen? Here. That is not covered. Okay. That was on the list. Do you want to just walk us through what you have? Okay. And then we'll ask questions.
As you can see, the first page that you have, that gives you a summary of all the funds in the city. And if you look at the next page is the capital expenditures that we discussed.
I don't have a copy of that.
You ever sent one?
To me, in the email.
Yes.
It's got like hard.
See if you can get her a hard copy. So the second page is this whole packet. That's why we send it out a week, in advance. Here's all the things that we met and we talked about. This is all our capital budget items for this particular year. You can see we don't have a lot of major projects that will be going on because of the fact that we've been really doing a lot of roads, water, sewer lines over the last few years. We got one project this year, which would be Garfield. We'll have one, this coming year, and then the following year we will have Lincoln. And then that following year after that, we'll probably take a hiatus while we're waiting for a lot of our funds to replenish. And the reason we do that is because most of these grants require a match. Okay. So we got to keep money in there. We don't want to drain them all down for a match, and then something happens and we have no cash. So what we do is we keep that there and keep replenishing that fund and get it up to the point that now we can use it to match some grants. Okay. We overall in our general fund, which is the main one we're concerned with, we will have we'll have to be $60,000 of our reserve, and our general fund will be right around $1 million. Basically at the same level as when I started almost 4 years ago. So I think that's quite an achievement considering all the projects and everything we did, and we're still going to have the same balance in our general fund that we had back then, our reserve. The budget also includes the extra police officer. I was able to cut both the general fund and the police and fire to get it in line so that we could have a additional officer. We have that additional officer on right now, but you guys remember Ron White is retiring sometime here in July. So that will take us back down to our old level, and then we'll be able with this budget to replace that officer. You do notice on our capital that the money that we're putting away in the police and fire fund, it was about 280, I believe 3 or 84. Now we're down to about 200. I did have to cut what we were saving in order to have that extra police officer. And I think that's a good balance of saving, but also moving us ahead with the officer.
Was it to add an officer or replace an officer?
Well, it's like I said, we added an officer. Right now, we're one officer above because Ron White's going to retire. When Ron White retires, we're going to go back down to what we are, and then we'll replace that position, which is basically adding another officer. Okay. One of the things that we need to consider between now and next meeting is I think before we used to give the DDA $15,000 a year contribution. We did away with that last year. I did not add that back in this year. Holly and them understand that. They have a balance that they're carrying over from year to year, so I don't think it'll have any impact on that particular organization. The Humane Society asked us for $4,000. I think last year was the first year they asked us for four. A year before, I think it was either 3 or 2. And so, with that being said, that is in the budget right now. But if you guys feel that that's good, or you want to cut it, or whatever you may want to do, or modify that, we can do that. NLEA, which is our economic development organization, we give them, initially when I think I first started, we were at like 3 or 4,000, we're at 8. I'm proposing to scale that back to probably about 4, maybe even 3. The Opera House, we provide them $21,000 per year. I think we need to look at that. They're carrying a balance of anywhere from between $500,000 and $1 million in an endowment fund. We also provide them free utilities, internet, snow plowing, and various other things. So I think that's one of the things we need to do. I'm cutting back anywhere I can in order to balance that budget. We need to get that down to the point where it's balanced. NEMCOG, we gave them a membership fee of $1,400 a year last year. I'm proposing to leave that the same because that's one of the, I think, better organizations we have right now that are partnering with us. They're helping us with our master plan, our zoning code, and then in my manager's report later, I'll tell you a little bit more about some of the other things they're doing for us right now. One thing I know we all talked about, and I think we all believe it's a priority, both council, myself, staff, is it worked out well when we had Roy here. Roy was a part-time code enforcement officer out of the police department. I think we made good progress in starting to do code enforcement and property maintenance. Roy retired, so that's leaving us a gap right now. I'm guessing it'll cost us somewhere between $60,000 and $70,000 total. That's wages plus benefits to probably hire a new code enforcement officer. I was like, man, I don't know if we can pull this off. But one of the things Chief and I sat down and went over was if we start to collect. We implement a rental inspection program, and it's been talked about for a while. And we probably have 5,000 people in the city. We figure 2 people per unit. That's 25 total units. I believe that our probably rental rate in the city is probably close to 50%. So just using for simple math, I'm saying, let's say there's 400 units out there. So if we take the 400 units and we charge a yearly fee for rentals at say $100 a unit, that would generate us $40,000 right there. If we went $150 per unit, that's $60,000. If we use it to do property code enforcement, zoning code enforcement and fines, and well as short-term rental, I think we should be reasonably close, almost paying for that person.
It's the scale back some of these subsidies.
Yes, and I think that's the discussion. I'm presenting these things, and I think that's where we got to fine tune right now is how do we achieve that. So I think again, from my point of view, and I think the chief, I think he's back there, yeah, the chief would agree. I think if we had a full-time code enforcement officer, I think it would produce huge benefits for the city.
That includes blight.
Correct. So that would be the property maintenance code, which is your blight, rental inspections, zoning code enforcement, short-term rental inspections. So I think it would be a really good thing to do. So I'm open for comments, discussions. Remember, we can't vote, but I can take direction from the council, tweak the budget that you guys have in front of you to make it work. It may increase a little bit of what we have to take out of the general fund, but I think I can change also the revenue in there to keep it maybe close to the same. And then, so in the financials too, you'll notice, and I'll make mention of it later. I think right now, as it stands for the ice storm, I think we're right around $200,000 we spend to deal with that issue. So hopefully FEMA comes back with some of that money, and that money will go back into the general fund. So that might also be,
The city submitted all its paperwork for.
we submitted our request in, I would say April. And then it was supposed to be due at the end of April, then they extended it to May. I know the governor sent the paperwork to FEMA. We have not heard, and I was gonna talk about this later, but I might as well run right into it. FEMA is looking for office space in the Cheboygan area and throughout the county, for their business, assistance, arm. So I think that's a good sign that maybe getting some sort of help. I'm hoping. We talked about that.
Alan Show. Is involved with Jeremy. Emergency management lieutenant. And, Alan Show. Basically, they're working with Jeremy now.
Yeah.
Went through it and passed the idea on whenever their last.
Well, we have the Bodman building. We also have, said that we have space available in the BKC insurance building. So we're hoping to get them, and they're not paying rent. They need free space. But if they're helping our businesses and things, we think we can accommodate them somewhere in the city. So
That's a really cool concept to have that.
So let's go. Thoughts on our external contributions, so the EDA, Humane Society, NLEA, the Opera House, NAMCOG, what's your thoughts?
So I'll start if I may. The Opera House.
Okay,
This building needs how much millions of dollars?
12, 14.
I'm concerned about it. And we're dumping 21,000 to them every year. I feel we need to stop paying it.
Okay,
And they have how many in endowments or?
anywhere from, I think a half to maybe $1 million. I think I sent out the financials to everybody.
It seems like they're doing quite well.
I think they're all right. But we will still cover the utilities, snow plowing, things like that, so.
Also, if we come back later, say, okay, we're going to cut some of these things, come back later, say, you know what, maybe we should do some of this, we can always just approve to spend that money
Correct,
later on.
correct. We can do a budget amendment.
Right.
So we could say, hey, we're gonna do this. Our contract with them says that we would provide them $21,000 a year unless we had budgetary constraints, which I think this is the reason. And then we can modify that contract with a 30-day notice. Okay,
I will say on the Opera House at endowments, you can't just use it for anything. It's very specific. However, they have another $250,000 in CDs, which is not restricted. So
10 years for a cash.
yeah, so don't confuse their profit and loss. Right now, their current profit and loss shows negative, but it has absolutely nothing to do with it. So I would like to see a balance sheet on the Opera House.
so
I don't want an audit. I don't want a profit and loss. I want a balance sheet. That will show the exact assets,
Sure.
liabilities, and everything.
all right. MLEA, I would recommend having that right now. I mean, the county does contribute on behalf of all cities, towns, and townships in the county. We upped that. They were doing a lot of work with us, and we're not doing as much with them right now. So I think if we scale it back to, I think the $4,000 mark, I think we would be good.
So we were 2 or 3 years ago or something.
2 years ago, maybe 2.5, maybe 3 years ago, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, that sounds reasonable.
So Dan, sorry, I'll take that right. The Humane Society. Do other townships pay for this Humane Society service?
I know some of the townships, do, the larger ones do. And I know there were some issues about certain ones were paying, certain ones were not, certain ones weren't filled. I don't know. I know there have been some issues over there. So I left it at 4 right now. It's in the budget at 4. But I would like to have somebody come here and have a discussion with us. I know the chief gets some benefit when we end up with dogs here. That sometimes they'll come get them or whatever it may be. So I think that's a discussion, if you guys, if we leave it in, that the chief and I should have with their board. I'm not sure if there's a director there right now or not.
If you could talk to us and two different things.
They've done a couple different things, but
Yeah, it's been a while. Adam's right.
but the main thing that I got from that is a large portion of their work is done to the city, but. You know, yeah, even if we don't do anything, they would still do it. I don't think, I don't know how that would affect us.
I'm not proposed, or
No, I don't know, yeah, I agree, I just.
the, billing of the city council. If the townships want to get in, they pay a fee. If they don't pay the fee, then, and don't want your services, then them are the ones that, and usually it's, smaller, townships. But by pay entry, they get coverage. They also, before, were having, they do some work in Presque Isle. And they just went through where they went absolutely broke. They lost, the manager that's been there for 20 some years or 30 years or so. And the county, took it on because, it's under the county provides the vehicles that they use. And so the county, had a restructuring of it. And so, how that restructuring went is probably changed, somewhat in the work of what they did. But they just got done, setting them up so their finances solid.
So do their finances run through the county or do they do their own?
They used to do their own, but I would think, I don't know that, an answer for sure on that, but I sure think that the county would take over the.
Dan, can we find that out? If so, I want a balance sheet from them too.
I got it down. If you want a balance sheet, and then chief and I will have a conversation with. I bet you it's probably under the sheriff's department, so we can check. We'll check into that. And I'll have a little more information for you at the next meeting. But I'll leave it in there for right now. I won't take it out.
We just got a few minutes left, so is there anything?
Code enforcement.
I think we need it, absolutely, especially if we can find a way to fund it. And I think your suggestions of the rent fees and scaling back in some of the subsidies to try and cover that. And I've got more calls about light than anything else. So, why doesn't the city do that? Why doesn't the city? Because we don't have an enforcement officer.
Right, the swapping out of lowering what we're putting in savings for police and fire for capital purchases versus the officer. If you're okay with me running that direction with the officer instead of putting more money over here.
Quick question, so we have the same amount of officers, and we're a head officer right now.
Correct.
Soon we'll be down to the.
We're down to where we should be.
And the extra officer does what exactly?
It allows us, because sometimes on the weekend, chief has got to come in and work Saturday and Sunday because we only have one officer on duty. And in my opinion, it's never a good thing if you only have one officer. And they're by themselves if something happened or whatever it may be. So that or the lieutenant has to come in or, so this way it'll allow us also with that extra officer, gives us the ability to send officers to training like we should be doing more of. We're doing a great job. We'll do better if we have that extra officer to cover those shifts. Plus, with the state of law enforcement now. Officers come and go, and since I've been here, we've had a few officers come and leave, and we have had this will be our second one retiring. So it's actually third one retiring since I've been here in 4 years. So I think that would provide a steady, and then yes, and I hate to say this out loud. Yes, someday the chief is going to re-retire, and so that also gives us more officers to move up through the system. So I think it's a great tool for succession planning, and also again gives us more support and also more time for those officers to get to the training that I think they deserve and they want.
When they come in on the day off, are you there overtime for that? Or just depends.
Well, the poor chief, no, he's salaried.
Okay.
Right, he's salaried. So yes, that's one of the things that, but it's, the chief is very overly nice when it comes to that, because, I think he worked last year, I believe, I think it was like 30-something days straight, it seemed like, so, that's not right. So maybe if we take a little load off, maybe he'll stay a little bit longer.
So
They're all back there laughing at me. See, I'm working it, right? Yeah.
So we don't have any rule or regulation or ordinance or anything that says for a town of 5,000 people, you have to have X amount of officers. We're free to
Nothing limits us.
limit us. Thank you.
I think if we add the extra officer, and this is the conversation Chief and I had before he was hired. He even said you need one more officer, and I think you'll be about where you need to be, and we're striving for that goal, and hopefully this is the case. So okay, there's no major opposition to that.
Allowed in the decent fire age. Yes.
Yes, it's just money that instead of putting in the capital, transfer from police and fire 205 to 475, it'll stay in that fund 205 to fund the officer instead of going across.
Anything, just got a couple minutes. That's right. Last thing you want to.
Let's see if there's anything else. Workers' comp. I know Buddy had a question about that. Our workers' comp is fairly constant in terms of the rate. Last year we did a complete city staff did a complete audit of ours, and then we're also going to review it again this year to see if we can even recategorize some positions in there to see if we can get some savings. But it looks like it'll be relatively the same. I think our insurance rate for employees, health insurance and stuff, went up about, I think it was right around, I'll say 8.99%, somewhere in that range. So again, we have that in here. We do have, you do have a salary sheet in there showing all the departments and their salaries and their fringes. So pretty much everything you need to see to understand what is going on. We did transfer extra money out of the general fund to pay off the deficit in the ice rink, like we said in that plan that we passed. So now the ice rink is not carrying that huge burden of the losses from when COVID was in place and it was closed down. So we did do that, and it looks like we kind of put a stop on spending in the month of June, so that there's not a lot of things we have to take care of in June and July that'll alter the financials and the fund balances you see. But remember, the fund balances you see today will be changing, but we think we got them. For example, the police department, we had two payrolls for this month. Whatever it shows in there that we're carrying over, that'll be deducted out. The chief has a server that's coming in. So there's going to be changes in those fund balances. So don't say, hey, look, what's the fund balance you showed us? That's why the word draft is on every one of the documents that you have. Okay. And we'll have even better numbers next week. So again, we'll have another payroll in there. We'll have more information in there, but I think we're in good shape. But again, I think over the years, in the last couple of years, we probably did 5, 6, 7 years of redundant structural work in a matter of 2 to 3 years. Okay. So now we can breathe a little bit, start getting that reserve back to use for, matching for the grants. And then we could start rolling again here in a couple of years. Alright?
All right, just because of time, if you guys have any questions, give it in after the meeting. Or requests, anything there. Any other information that you'd like to see, or. All right, work session is adjourned and we'll get back together.